welcome back for session 3 of Stonetop. This is for Gauntletcon 2018. I'm Jeremy, your GM, and once again we are joined with David playing Amir. We are joined by Greg playing Saraid the Fox, Horst playing White Tree the Blessed, and Tyler playing Maxon, Old Max the Seeker. All right. So, White Tree, you've got Saraid basically like ran out, threw the baby in your arms, probably interrupting your lullaby that you were singing. And then Saraid just sort of like started screaming and twisting in pain. Max and Amir, you're sort of like behind them up against that cliff, sort of having just shuffled down and leaving one of the light sources up there. And the other thing, I think, Maxon, as you kind of like hop down and you sort of realize that Tulip has actually just dropped down the rope to kind of come down here. And you have something about the way the rope was moving made you think that someone else was following. All right. So, White Tree, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm trying to get behind Maxon and Amir, so that they are between me and Saraid.
Okay. That is fairly easy to do, as Saraid is currently debilitated with spasms of pain. So Amir and Maxon, you guys like sort of see White Tree come shuffling off, holding the baby who's crying. Like as you finish getting Maxon down, you see the same thing. Saraid is sitting there just like on his knees, probably at this point, just what are you two, or what are y'all doing at this point?
I'm probably going to head over to Saraid to see if I can help him. I've got the lantern and I'm over there and I'm trying to get a look to see if I could see like a visible wound. I don't realize he's infected with parasites, so I'm running over there. You must come with us.
Yeah, I'm helping him walk.
Right,
and I am suspicious that maybe he's been infected with parasites, because we've seen that as a possibility before. And if Maxon can't help, well,
there are ways to help. All right. Yeah. So as you two sort of limp that way, limp over there. Maxon, as you shine the light, like I think Saraid's eyes like pop open, and you see just the inky blackness floating around in them, right? And Saraid, do you think it's like the black is taken over your eyes, or do you think it's just sort of like swimming around in there like old X-Files episodes?
Oh, like old X-Files episodes. Yeah, it's not fully there, but you like on the periphery, almost like a vignette for a photo.
A vignette for Frodo?
For a photo, like
for a
black,
photo. Oh, okay.
Yeah, on the edges of the eyes. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, so yeah, you two see that, and he's just sort of has this pained, almost pained and kind of terrified expression. He definitely has been beaten up. Like he's kind of bleeding a bit from a couple spot like scrapes and bruises. His throat has sort of like bluish scars on it, or blackened skin, as though it's been frozen. What are you two doing? Or Maxon in particular, what are you doing?
Do I have any thought that of how to try and get this out of him? I have like remedies for poison, but I don't know if that's the same thing. Do I think if I drug him out of here that would work, or do I think
sounds like you were spouting lore to me.
Okay, and this would not count for makers sorts of things. My other one certainly won't apply.
No, though actually I've been meaning to mention, I think you only marked one of your steeped in lore things, right?
I did go ahead and pick up my other one, and it's the Civilizations of Humanity.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think I don't think that this will necessarily hit on either of those, but you still get the spout lore. Or it just means you don't get your follow-up question.
Gotcha. Rolled a 7 gives me a 9.
Okay. Do you want to burn bright to turn it into a 10, or?
Yeah, I might as well. I've got 2 chances to do that without taking my level down. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so that gives you something useful or something interesting and useful. So yeah, I think the key thing is that you don't think he is getting him out of this place is not going to do it. You're pretty sure that whatever it is, it's got its talons into him. And the 2 things that occur to you that would probably help him would be, 1, destroying the source of the malignancy, right? Or destroying the source of the thing's power, or maybe if you got him out of there, you could come up with some long ritual to actually extract everything. In the meantime, you can definitely tell he is potentially a danger to you and to all of your friends. And perhaps drugging him or knocking him out might be in everybody's best interest.
Okay. But I could see he's trying to fight it, so I'm going to lean in close and say, "Where is it? Where is it?" Did you point? Was that you pointing?
Yeah. Should I? Do I need to roll a resistance for that?
No, I think at this point,
Okay.
I think it's basically it's gotten its little it's gotten its revenge on you, right?
Right. I'm going to. I'm guessing it's that dark stone that's sort of yeah. I mean yeah. Come on, Maxon. No. So
no, I don't think Maxon has necessarily seen it, right? Because it's right at the edge of the lantern light.
I'm gesturing. Yeah, I guess just past the lantern light.
There. I'm going to look back to you, Emir, and say, "We have to restrain him. He will. This thing will make him hurt us." As I'm going to kind of move off with the light towards where he pointed.
Okay, so
I couldn't restrain him if I wanted to. Emir would have to.
You've got so I don't know if you can see on the map right here that it's that little island in the middle of the water that he was pointing towards. And once he points it out, you can sort of see it flickering in the light. Amir, what Maxon's kind of stomping off or limping off, and you just told you to restrain him. What do you do?
I take my cloak and wrap it around him pretty tight, and then start to tie up the loose ends so that you'd have to struggle pretty hard to get out of it.
Okay. Sarade, are you resisting that at all?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So I think maybe it sounds like you're interfering with him.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you resisting? What's that?
It just gives disadvantage.
No, it actually there's an actual roll for it.
I think as Amir is trying to put the cloak around me, they're just it's almost like my bones are not where they should be. So he thinks he has my arm, but then it's free, and maybe Amir just thinks it's a part of the darkness, but it's almost like my limbs are elongating a little bit, and I'm able to push something off.
Ugh. So you're just squirming and getting all weird.
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like Dex to me.
All right.
Okay.
And that is... Ooh, that's a 10.
Okay. So the way Interfere works in this, when you try to foil another PC's action, say how you do it in roll, and it's basically the Defy Danger list. On a 10 plus, they pick one from the list below. So Amir, you have to pick that you do it anyway, but you act with disadvantage, or you choose that you choose to relent, change course, or otherwise allow your move to be foiled.
I think I have to relent and change course. I think it's too squirmy, and it doesn't seem right or natural. So I will just have to bash him with a shield.
All right. I think right as you are about to, like, he kind of like slips away, right? And you're about to just like pick up the shield and whack him over the head with it or something like that. And as you're doing that, Max and you sort of like take your first step into the water. And you're like, you're probably a little bit weirded out by stepping into the water, right? Because who knows what the fuck is in there. And like as you step into it, the whole room starts to shake like an earthquake. And everyone's just sort of like toppling around and trying to keep their balance. What are y'all doing?
White Tree is trying to lean against the wall of the cave in order to not trip over.
Sure.
I'm going to, as much as possible, kind of try and just jump towards where that rock is. If I could see it jutting up through the water, I'm just going to try and dive as quickly as possible, protecting the lantern as I go.
Okay. So just sort of like forcing your way across, or
yeah.
Cool. That sounds like White Tree. I don't think I'm going to have to. I'm not going to ask you to roll, right? Because you're just sort of like taking advantage of what's there. I think Maxon, that sounds like you're going to be defying danger, and I could go with Con or with Dex. Either one.
They're both the same, so I'll go with Con.
Okay.
The kind of forciness of it.
And while you're sort of making that roll, Amir and Saraid. Amir, are you still trying to smack Saraid while this is happening?
I think I can brace for a minute, but like we were probably both struggling on the ground as it was, so I might still be able to try and hit him with a shield because I'm just kind of crouched over him.
Okay,
yeah, I think
sure. You're kind of like, what's that?
I was just saying, I'm pretty sure I'm about to get my face bashed in by a shield. So,
okay. Are you?
Hey, it's not with the edge. It's with the open side, so you know that I care.
I appreciate that.
I ended up with an 11.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So yeah, it's like you say, right? You like stumble over there, just sort of like grit and bear it, and you manage to land on there, maybe like an elbow down, and like I think you probably still like bang your knee as you land. And it's just like shooting pain, but you're just gritting through it. And when you get there, like you sort of like look up, and on the mound. One, you see a little papery nest that immediately makes you think of a crib, right? Like they were, having the kid in there. And then the other thing that really just draws your attention is that mound kind of popping up and out of the cracked stone of that crust of petrified bug, right? Just sort of all around the thing with this crack in the middle of that is this black glassy stone that is just darker and more ominous than anything you think. No, not you think. It is more darker and more ominous than anything you have ever seen ever. And you are positive that is the source of all of this. All right. So, Saraid, Are you trying to like get out of the way or dodge the shield bash, or are you gonna basically just take like?
Oh yeah, I want to see how they're gonna get my unconscious body out of here.
You're not resisting,
or
you are resisting?
I think Serraid. I think if I'm resisting anything, I'm resisting what's inside of me from letting them. Like Serraid wants to resist the thing inside to let Amir bash them with the shield.
Oh yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. That's true, because it's probably like as this is shaking, like the earth shaking, right? It actually starts welling up within you, going like, "Get them!" Right? Bring me their blood. Bring back the baby. Okay, so you're resisting that to basically let yourself get brained.
Yeah, would that be Defy Danger with Charisma?
So that's actually going to be a Thrall thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hey, everyone. I took a Thrall playbook.
No worries. We're all fine here.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Oh, yeah. Rolling plus wisdom. Okay. Oh, boxcars. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I am able to keep composure and resist working towards my master's freedom.
Cool.
And that allows my actions are my own. So my action is to let Amir bash me with his shield.
All right, Amir, I'm not going to have you roll anything for this, right? You're just like cold cocking someone who's letting you do it, even though there's an earthquake going on. But like you said, you guys are. Oh,
just this moment, Saray just like the eyes just clear and just goes, "Do it now."
Amir, do you do it?
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. White Tree, you see that like as the earthquake sort of like starts to stop shaking, right? You kind of like see that moment, and down goes Serraid. And the light from up above that was up on that ledge, like it's sort of like and flickering over, and you hear Tulip up above shouting, "Kari, Kari!" And she like starts to poke her head, like she's clearly on all fours, right? And she pokes her head over and looks down and actually sort of sees you, and at first gasps because she thinks you're a Crinwin or something. What do you do?
Is it possible to hand her the baby, or is it too high?
You're really tall, right?
Yeah, tall and lanky.
Yeah, so I think like it's not going to be like it's like I'm not going to make you defy danger for it, right? But it's going to take some time of you finding a spot and like grabbing and holding her up. But I think like with a like maybe half a minute or so, you'll be able to arrange it. But you're going to be very vulnerable during all of that. All right. So speaking of which, so as you are, as you're doing that, right, you're actually kind of like leaning up and shoving the baby up there. And right as that happens, there's and the light up on the ledge just gets blown out. And as it snuffs out, White Tree, you just get like flash, like suddenly you are buried in the dirt again. And, just like, like that reaching that you're doing is you trying to push out, and you're just feeling compressed and yeah, David, I agree. Then and so speaking of which, so like you're doing that, and then Amir, you like sort of right as you smash or like you're just sort of like recovering from smacking Serraid over the head, and the as the light like in front of you goes out, you are suddenly back in the the rebellion, right? And it's that moment right after you turned and saw your friend, or the kid that you were protecting, go down, and just all around you are your captors and the people trying to keep you in, and it's fight or flight. There's just all sorts of awful all around you. Maxon, you are not affected by this. You are like on that little island in your little tiny pool of light, like kind of like getting up and looking at this thing that, like I said, is just like you actually, like, even though your senses are your own, you just feel your heart just sort of withering in your chest. Like you can't even imagine, you can't even think about how you could possibly strike down something so ancient and powerful and terrible, and you're just starting to despair. What do you do?
Saren, as one of the few people that has always been like a friend in this town to me, so I feel like I have to try to free him in some way. I may not have much, which, you know, I wish there's a great move I wish I had, but I don't. But I'm going to reach in and pull out my last of the Bendish root. By the end of this adventure, I have wiped all of my equipment. I really have utilized my stuff and put it into the lantern. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is light it up as this next action. And
sure. That sounds to me like I think you are defying danger with quick thinking there, right? Okay. To sort of like wrest yourself free of the like its influence, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, I rolled boxcars.
Nice. So yeah, you do that, right? And in fact, like as you're rummaging around, or I guess maybe after you get the Bendis root out and get it lit, and the fumes start to clear your mind, and you realize that this thing was totally like it's that sense of dread and despair is just emanating out of this thing. But like as your brain clears, the other thing that sort of occurs to you is your hand brushed up against the mind gem. And one of the things about the mind gem is that it's made of maker glass, which maker glass is basically considered by everyone, like everyone who knows things about this stuff knows that maker glass is indestructible.
Okay.
So yeah, you're sort of like looking at this thing. You've got the Bendis root. You've got the lantern. This thing is just sitting there, like being menacing in front of you. And what do you do?
All right, I'm going to, as I'm touching the mind gem, I'm going to pull it out, and I've reached into the pack. So I've got it, and it's big. So I've taken both hands, but my hand also down there, I touch a bottle, and I pull out with the mind gem. I pull out also my bottle of fine whiskey. And so my only thought is that maybe with the light and the mind gem, maybe I can do something to it. And so I've got the Bendish root, which I've had to set down, and the lantern, which I've also had to set down to do this, sitting there beside me. As I touch the mind gem, my friend, you must be stronger. And I lift it up, drop down the whiskey bottle so that it shatters, push the Bendish root burning into the whiskey, and smash down with the mind gem.
Nice. Okay, this thing, there is all sorts of danger in this.
Yeah.
Give me a defy danger. It's a clever plan. So give me a defy danger with end.
Oh, come on. That'll be a 9.
You said you still have XP for Burning Bright?
Yeah, would you tell me what, before I spend it, what my awful thing is with the 9?
Oh, sure. Let's see here. Okay. If you, on a 7 to 9, what I think is going to happen is it's going to take like multiple smashes, and the thing is going to retaliate at you. It's kind of nasty in its retaliation.
I think I want it to retaliate at me.
All right. I kind of figured you might. All right. So describe what happens as you start smashing into this thing, and it does crack and start to give way.
I think with the that blue flame of the whiskey burning around it, and I'm smashing it now, and it's singeing up at I'm over the flame. It's singeing my clothes, and as I'm smashing, each time it hits, the mind gem gives off this bit of light, and the nasty gem inside gives off this reflective blackness. As I'm smashing into it, and in that flash, you could kind of just, those of you watching beyond probably could see me silhouetted in that crazy looking old man kind of bashing on a rock.
All right. Unfortunately, nobody is paying any attention to you because they are all sucked into their own visions. Amir, you are in the midst of this, like the bloodiest fight of your life, right? Like probably the worst moment, the worst hour that you've ever lived through. And, but you've got like the blood on your, it's just caked on your face, murder and wounds and everything all around you. When suddenly something that never happened then happens to you, and that is the earth starts to shake, right? And there's just an earthquake going all over the place, and you've got you don't know how you're going to keep your footing and actually get out of here as the building starts to collapse around you. What do you do?
I mean, I'm still like surrounded by people, so I think I'm just like, I'm having to deal with the fact that it's shaking, but they probably are too. And I'm just like hitting them and like trying to use them as leverage to keep me moving upright towards the exit, and just trying to like knock them aside.
Cool. You do that, right? It's a vision, so I'm not going to make you roll for it. But you get sort of towards the exit, and as you get to the exit, like the part where you're pretty sure that once you make it there, it'll just be a foot race, and you're pretty sure you can outrun these yahoos. As you pop out, you see something like the vision that you see is not what you expected to be there, right? It's not the same thing, and something about that sort of throws your brain into sort of doubting whatever's actually happening here. What is the vision? What do you see when you step outside, and how does it fill you with a little bit of hope?
I step outside into Stonetop, and I see that kid, and he's like carving the symbol into the shield.
Nice. Give me a roll with wisdom, please, to fend off this damn thing's influence.
Nice. I've got 11.
Nice. Okay. So you see through the trickery, and you cannot be affected by it again. So you sort of like your eyes pop open, and it's dim. It's like you only really have the light from the island where you can kind of see Maxon doing his smashing thing. The earth is in fact shaking underneath your feet. But you also sort of sense White Tree kind of nearby, and you hear some whimpering coming from up top on that ledge. And I think in like a little flicker of the light, like maybe one of the smashes that Maxim does, kind of like there's a burst of light. You see this like tiny little twisted thing with a burnt face up on the ledge, and you can see it sort of like standing over or like grabbing the bundle from White Tree's hands and trying to pull it away. What do you do?
I think I just give out like a war cry, and I throw that long spear at it to try and prevent it from taking the bundle. Just
to be clear, you're throwing a long spear at a tiny little creature that's picking up a baby.
Like it's big enough to get past, or it's big enough to get over top White Tree, right?
No. It's up on top of the cliff, like reaching down and grabbing the bundle that White Tree was lifting up. So here, let me put a visual up on this. So you are like down here with Sarade, right? And White Tree is kind of like was on her tiptoes, reaching up with the baby. And Tillip was up there by the lantern, but the lantern is now gone. And in that flash, you just sort of saw the creepy little blind Crinwin up there trying to like grab the baby.
Oh, I see.
Cool. And then like Sarade is sitting here next to you. I don't know why I feel compelled to put these stick figures like this.
No, it's good.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'm still throwing it. I think that's just my gut reaction coming out of this vision. And and even if I miss, it should hopefully get White Tree to flinch back and realize like something's amiss.
Yeah, I just want to like warn you, like there is a chance that you'll end up spearing the baby on a miss.
Well, that would be unfortunate.
Look on the bright side. You could spear White Tree.
All right. So you're throwing it. You're not like stepping in and just like doing that.
No, I think I'm too far away.
Okay. So roll volley.
Okay. Boxcars.
Finally, you people are fucking rolling. All right, roll your damage.
3 with 1 piercing.
Okay. So there's this like sound, and the thing like scampers away, and White Tree, like you're like in the ground, pushing up, right? And the ground starts to shake actually, and it actually starts to pull. You're able to start to pull yourself aside, and as you actually do, and you start to pull yourself up a little bit. What do you see up there that fills your heart? Like as you start to pull up, you see something that you certainly never saw when you actually like got free in as a child. But what do you see as you pull out that fills your heart with warmth?
I think that that there must be like a sacred glade in the forest where once in a while the forest folk would take me, or maybe they just took me that one time, and I haven't found it since then. So when I pull myself up, I see there's maybe like a pond surrounded by rocks, and the sun shining down on it through the canopy. So it's the sacred glade of the old forest that I see.
Okay, great. And that, like, as you pop up there, like that definitely triggers in your head. Certainly, like with the earth shaking a little bit, and like the pond, the pool is still very still, even though the earth is shaking all around you. And that gives you something to, like, enough of a purchase in your mind to start shaking off this influence. So go ahead and roll whiz for me. See how long it lasts.
Oh man! So the luck just ended.
Oh no!
This is a 5.
It's a 5. Okay. So what I think this means is that you actually, like, you're still like kind of like, just sort of phased out, right? Like kind of wandering around in this hallucination. Amir, you see White Tree just sort of like slump up against the wall and start to like drag down, or like kind of slouch down against the wall as the earth is quaking a little bit in an aftershock. But I think the ominous thing is that up top on that ledge, you realize that the baby actually is up on the ledge, not in White Tree's arms. And you then sort of almost immediately after you register that, you hear a "Ah!" and the sound of a scuffle happening up top, and you're pretty sure that was Tillip's voice up there. Sarid, you are passed out in the dark. You find yourself like the darkness, right? It's just like that same sort of thing where you're just this tiny little speck of light in this vast field of dark. And yet somehow you feel this, and there's the everything about this thing is just sort of like pushing itself down on you, like urging you, like wake up and stop them. We must be free. And it's sort of pushing into you with all of its energy. And you can tell that it, like, if you let it, you'll wake right the fuck up. And yeah, you'll wake right the fuck up and start with probably some bloody murder.
Yeah, definitely gonna resist that urge.
Okay.
I'm trying to stay. Yeah, I'm trying to stay out, or at least if I come to stay myself for a little bit longer, so we can get out of here.
Sure.
Wisdom is a +1.
What's that? You should have taken the whiz +1.
All right, here we go. Ooh, that's a 4.
Okay. All right. Maxon, you are at the thing, right? Smash, and you, like you said, you got like it's starting to get like flames kind of licking at your robes. And at first you think it's just a trick of the light, and then you start to realize that no, that really is like tendrils of black darkness are starting to seep out of the cracks that you're making in the stone and like wrap around you, like start reaching up and like pushing towards you. And I assume you're just gonna keep smashing and pounding on the thing.
Yes, and as in comparison to Sarid, who had such a beautiful voice, I have that sort of cracked hoarse whisper, but I'm going to start singing that lullaby that I heard as well.
Awesome.
So that kind of juxtaposition of what had been beautiful is now kind of tortured from my singing.
Okay, so you are going to take a D10 +2 damage.
All right. Oh, this could do me. +2.
Yeah.
That was 10 points of damage,
Ooh!
which takes me to exactly 0.
You still have an inspiration, don't you?
I do, but I think I'm gonna hold on to that one for my escape because I am pushing. I am flagging, letting Ivan out.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
That's sort of what I figured. All right, so you like this starts to just like overwhelm you, right? Like smother you, and in fact, like it comes up over your face, and I think you're probably like continuing to smash even as the like your everything goes dark, and your heart just is like seizing up in your chest. Like it feels like an elephant is just pressing down right on you. And in the darkness, there's this little gate, right? This carved out of bone gate, and you start to hear and look up, and sure enough, there's like suddenly the gate is much closer, right? And you find yourself heading towards it. And this lady sort of like hanging in the back or hanging in the doorway, kind of reaching out towards you. What do you do?
Ivan, it is time for you to go.
Finally. And there's this sort of like tearing from your flesh, right, out. But as he tears free, the and kind of like heads to the gate and kind of like looks back at you with this one last just like withering glare of, how dare you, and takes the lady's hand and just sort of like vanishes into the gate. The pressure starts to leave up, and the light, like actually, like as you sort of become more aware of yourself continuing to smash down, and there's a crack of light through everything. And then like another smash, and the gate sort of like behind the gate, there's this crack, and then another smash, and the darkness starts to fade away. But as it does, you hear and vaguely you think you hear dogs barking in the distance. And then you come to and smash the thing again, and it's starting to just like flake off into just pieces all over the place. There's that horrible rasping voice that it kind of keeps coming. All right, Saray. Oh well, sorry, Saray, you biffed, right?
Oh, I biffed hard.
Okay. So Amir, you had just sort of like thrown your spear and stabbed the kid, right? Or not stab the kid, stab the Crinwin. You heard the sound of the scuffle up top. Oh, not sorry, Amir. Amir threw the spear, stabbed the Crinwin. So your spear is kind of like up top. There's that scuffle going on up there, and you're pretty sure the baby's there. White Tree is down, like sort of slumped and kind of twitching a little bit. The ground is still shaking a little bit. Like every time Maxon smashes the thing, there's this like in the cave. And as you're sort of taking this all in, you realize, fuck, Saray's up, and he's moving towards Maxon. What do you do?
Dang it. I think I just have to. I probably need to stop Saray. Apparently, I didn't hit him hard enough the first time, and so I'll side tackle him into the cave wall.
Okay. Sounds to me like you were defying danger with either strength or dex.
Okay. It comes to the same die roll, so.
Okay.
God damn it. 4.
Okay.
Greg, this is all your fault, Greg.
I brought this on myself.
Mark XP. Okay, so you like basically go running after him, and yeah, I think so on the plus side, I think you do in fact stop Saray, right? On the downside, I think you're finding out just how dangerous Saray actually is. So, Saray, do you have like a knife on you? Or is it just the arming sword the only thing that you had with you?
I think I just have the arming sword.
Okay.
But I do have the. If we want to play with it fictionally, the Shadow's Cold Embrace. I have the cold powers. Maybe just my hands are that burning cold.
Sure.
As I'm currently not really myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think Amir, you do grab him, right? You like tackle him and maybe get his throat like with the shed, like with your arm, right? Bar grab him, and then he's just sort of like wriggling around again, and it's again like weirdly, his limbs are surprisingly like wobbly, and he just gets around you and grabs onto your face. And Saray, can you go ahead and roll your damage, please?
All right. That's a 4.
Okay. So my armor's blocking most of that, but I'm still getting a little hurt.
All right. But yeah, so he's like got his hand on your face, and you're just like feeling this like icy cold burning just coming through from it that's much worse than his grip possibly could be. All right. Meanwhile, back at back in White Tree's brain. So White Tree, you are like you kind of pull yourself up. You're covered in this dirt. The ground still like shakes, and then you're sort of like looking in this pond. Which is like a nice, like it's a shallow, like a spring, not even a spring fed, like a stream fed pond, right? It's just this calm, beautiful place, fairly shallow. You see these rounded pebbles underneath all of it. And every time there's this shake, right? There's no ripple in the top of it. And yet you're starting to see this like blacky inkness, like almost like an octopus is just jetted ink coming up from the bottom of this pond, starting to fill it out, and it's rolling towards you. And the pond is suddenly much, much bigger than it ever was, and you're just sort of like sitting in this pool of darkness, rolling towards you, and it's starting to like roll up you and actually like trying to get in you, and you start hearing, "Help us, help, help." What do you do?
So I think I'm trying to sing like children, maybe the same children's song that she has sung before, and I wanted to resonate with the water to expel the tendrils.
Cool. Sounds like Define Danger Within.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go and roll it.
That is an 8.
An 8. Okay. So ugly choice, hard bargain, or worse outcome. So you start to do the singing, right? And it does, in fact, start to ripple through. And you actually see that rippling pushing back the blackness, right? And it's actually really like pushing it back. And as it is sort of like coming or pushing back, you snap to, and the just like oh yeah, okay, that's what'll happen. Like you snap to and sort of like kind of drag yourself up, and you realize where you are, but just like your hands are shaking, your knees are wobbling. I'm going to have you mark the weakened ability. Right, as you sort of like snap yourself out of this, and like you're still kind of continuing to get the song going, and you just happen to be in harmony, like sort of singing the same bit that Maxon is singing. And and so you can, as you come to, you hear the sounds of a scuffle going on up top. You realize that Amir and Saray are like scuffling further down towards the island, And again, Maxon kind of continues to smash this thing. And then at the sound of the scuffle, you're pretty sure that you hear Helid and Tulip like fighting with something up there.
In my weakened state, could I try to like pull myself up onto the ledge, or is it too high up?
I think you could get there, right? I think it'll be hard, right? Like it'll take some time and some effort to pull yourself up. And given given that everything's like shaking every time Maxon hits it, I think you're going to be defying danger to get up there.
Awesome.
All right. Almost certainly with strength.
Of course. Which is -1 and at disadvantage.
Oh, okay. Well, so, maybe mark XP right now.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. All right. So you do get up there, right? You actually do manage to get up to the top. But when you do, what you find is a horrible scene as you sort of like drag yourself finally up to the top. And that is sort of like in the flashes that kind of come, you see this sort of like small little twisted thing kind of like standing over Tulip and Helid. And Tulip actually has Helid's hands in her throat in her hands. And you can see that Tulip is like throttling Helid and clearly like yelling, "Leave my baby alone! Leave him be!" And the horrible thing is just sort of like sitting there holding, not cradling, but just like holding the baby who's crying as you sort of like drag yourself up there with your hand shaking. Cut back down to Maxon. You have just sort of like snapped through. You're still basically on the verge of death, right? Yes. And like these tendrils are like wrapping all around you, and the thing is starting to like you're seeing it's starting to just like crack and flake apart. Just a couple more hits, and you think you're going to do it. But you still like feel the cold. You still feel everything just like like tearing at you. What do you do?
I'm going to continue smashing into it.
Okay.
Singing my defiance.
All right. I think you are defying danger with con to endure.
All right. I rolled a 7. That's an 8.
Okay. So I think what happens is it just is like you keep smashing, and it just takes like 3 or 4 more hits, and it's just starting to seep out this cloud all around you, and just tear in and just like seep in you, and that whole like pressure thing starts to happen again. It's going to do another D10 plus 2 damage. Now would probably be a good time to spend that inspiration.
Yeah, I have one hit point, so I will spend the inspiration to go back to 1 hit point.
Okay, but it is sufficient, right? Like you smash, and there start to be these flakes, like pulling around, and as you keep smashing through the thing, even though by all accounts you probably should be dead, right? Twice at this point. Yeah. You finally crack through that shell, right? That like bug-like shell, and get at the last bit of this thing, and it just sort of like flakes off and goes flying, and the cloud just starts to dissipate all around you. The light starts to sort of seep back in, and a voice in your head says something along the line, or the voice in your head says, "Of course I am stronger." So as that happens, Saraid, you like your eyes like in a mirror, you actually see Saraid's eyes like go from pitch black, like absolute utter blackness, to and Saraid, you find yourself like sitting there like getting choked out by Amir, with your hand on his face. What do you do?
I'm here. It's me. Yeah, I'm just just like pushing the edge of that shield up under your chin. And I'm like, I like reach my other hand and like pull your eyes wide and like pull back.
I'm sorry.
The whole place starts to, and like a chunk of rock falls and splashes in the water next to everyone, or like kind of like next to the two of you guys. And like the two of you, or Saray in particular, you see Maxon sort of just like on the island, this glowing stone or this glowing gem sort of in his hands, the lantern flickering behind him, and he's just like panting and just barely up.
Amir, you go to White Tree. I will get Maxon. We have to get out of here.
All right, Amir, what do you do?
So I look and see Maxon like slumped over, and then I look and can I even see White Tree on top of that ledge, or is it too high up that I can't see?
I don't think you can see her anymore because there's not those flashes. There's just that lantern on the island. But I think you hear Tillip and or like the sound of Tillip like screaming, "Don't you take my baby!" and that's definitely coming from up on the ledge.
Okay, yeah, I go running for that.
Okay. And Sarah, you're going to help Maxon?
Yeah, gonna haul Maxon up and get him out of here.
And White Tree, so you are like, you kind of drag yourself up, and as you finish dragging yourself up and take that scene in, the thing with no eyes sort of turns and looks at you, and it just gets this awful sneer in its face, and you can tell it is just pissed.
I'm pissed too, though. So, White Tree takes one of her magic ingredients from the pouch and starts to what's it called? Like starts to enchant. What could it be? Like maybe it's a flower bud or something, and she speaks into the flower. And what I would like to do is what's it called? Let's see. It is, bear with me, Danu's Grasp. I'm trying to bind a perversion of nature.
This would count.
Yeah, that should count. So I roll plus wisdom, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
And this is a 12. The Mother Nature compels you.
So what happens? I think you choose two of the three things, right?
Yes. So roots, vines, and earth restrains them, and they take 2d4 damage, which means I don't prevent their counterattack.
Okay. All right, cool. So roll your damage.
Yes, hold on. That's 5 damage.
Okay. So describe like how describe what this looks like.
So what it looks like is that from that, it's like a rocky ledge, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And from the ground, there's these roots that grow out of it, winding around its limbs and trying to dragging it down, holding it its place. But the roots, they're like roots and vines. And these vines have thorns that like pierce through its skin.
Nice. One just sort of detail to add. So like pretty much all of the ground in here is made of those hexagonal basalt columns. So I'm picturing the vines and everything sort of like shooting out from between the cracks in those columns. So cool. It like does that and starts getting like pulled down, and you can tell that it was not really expecting this at all. And as it is like that is happening, you see it grasping the child close to you or to it, and it's like pulling it in. You can sort of see this defiant look in its eyes of, if you take me down, I'm going to take the baby down, or I'm going to take the baby with me. All right. So Maxon, you are kind of like sitting there huffing. You feel the power of this thing, right, has like been dissipated. Absolutely. The earth is like the earth is still shaking a little bit, but it's more of a collapsing type of shaking, not an angry sort of shaking. It does occur to you, like as you are kind of like recovering, and Sarid sort of like comes up and starts and gets you, that there are a number of decent sized little obsidian-like flakes of this stone sort of left all over here. While they don't ripple with the same menace and power that the big thing did, you're certain that you could, find some use for these things.
I look at. I probably don't look first at Sarah. I probably grab them and pull them to me first. And so as I'm grabbing them, it's probably a little Gollum-like, it's a little, my precious, sort of, this frantic grabbing as I grab them, and I'm pushing them into my pack and the mind gem. I'm pushing in, and that's when I look up and, are you free? And in that faint light, and tell me, I'm to ask if this works for everyone. But my death's door, the mark that's put on me, because with the 7 to 9, I get a 7 to 9, so I still have the mark of death to me.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's awesome. Yeah. So what's the mark?
I think you see on my eyes that same black ring that you'd had when you were possessed.
Ooh.
Does that seem to fit and appropriate for everyone? Cool. So as I look up, you see that. But I mean, I seem clear. I mean, I'm me. As good as that gets.
It takes Sarah just a moment looking at the eyes and going, "Are you still in there, Maxon?"
I've not passed through the gate yet, my friend.
Maxon, you're brilliant. We have to get out of here. Quickly. And I'm just like trying to pick up Maxon, because I know Maxon is injured at this point. And Maxon's old anyways, probably needs help. And is pulling Maxon across, because we have to get out of here before the whole cave collapses on us.
Cool. Amir, you kind of like get to the cliff's edge, and I'm imagining you're scrambling up there to do what you can. Okay. So you sort of like pull yourself up just in time to see the vines like shooting out and dragging at this thing, and you can kind of your eyes are just sort of vaguely or barely adjusting to this. To see the vines like ripping at the thing, but it's also like holding the baby tight, and you can tell that it is like trying to basically like strangle the child. And White Tree is sort of like sitting there with her hand out, Yoda style, right? Like bringing the vines to bear. What do you do?
I take in that situation. I look and I see my spear on the ground, and I just think I'm going to go for a killing blow on this thing so it can't hurt the baby. Like, just drive it up through under its ribs, out through the side of its collarbone.
Cool. I'm not going to make you roll hack and slash because it's restrained, right? It's more a question of can you do enough damage to this thing before it has a chance to hurt the child, before it can significantly hurt the child.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if there's any way that I can augment my ability to do more damage. So I just roll a d8 and see what happens.
Do you still have inspiration?
I didn't get inspiration because I was the getter.
Right.
I got a 3, and that weapon has piercing. So
okay. So yeah, you like drive it in, and the thing I think like it sort of like it goes through, maybe like it twists a little bit, and it goes through its shoulder. Right, and it doesn't quite like land a killing blow on it, and it's surprisingly tough when you hit into the thing. Like you don't even manage to get all the way through, and it starts to like the baby has actually stopped crying at this point. It's more like White Tree. You've got it restrained, but it's still there, and it is still trying to take this child out, or trying to take the child with it. Do you want to throw more juice on or at it?
Yes, I burn my last. Can I retroactively make it like thorns instead of a flower?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the stuff that I take out of my pouch, and I double down on the Yoda move.
All right, roll it.
Oh, that is a. Let me think. That is a 4. That is a 6. But can I use inspiration to get a +1? Is that one of the options?
I think inspiration is letting you
reroll something. No.
Reroll damage and take the better result. Keep 1 hit point instead of being reduced to 0, or act fearlessly in the face of terror.
Well, then it is a 6.
Can you burn bright?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a good idea. I can burn bright because I rolled so terrible that I have XP aplenty.
Okay.
Which makes it a 7 to 9.
All right. So you've got so that means you get to choose one of the things, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, so I think if you don't choose prevent its counterattack, it's going to murder the child.
And that is what what I choose. So
okay.
What we see is maybe that I prevent the counterattack by forming like a nest around the baby. So the vines, instead of they let go of the creature and instead form like a nest around Katie.
Okay, cool. Like it's still restrained from before. Like you didn't lose that. So I think like you're just sort of like forming this nest and sort of like trying to push it aside. And it can't quite get the you're grasping on it, but it's giving you, Amir, another chance to take it out.
Okay, yeah, I think I just put I'm like sick of this thing, so I'm just putting like all my weight into it. I never pulled the spear out. I'm just like jumping and like thrusting.
All right, give us another damage roll.
2.
Okay.
Can I burn bright to reroll damage or something?
I will let you expose yourself to its attack in order to deal an extra d6.
That's fine. Let's do that. 6, so 8
nice.
Total plus piercing.
Okay, that is absolutely enough. What's going to happen is the counterattack is it when it bursts, right? It is going to get all the fuck over you. But White Tree, you'll be able to like sort of like snag the baby away with the vines and protect it. So, yeah. Amir, do you want to give us the fiction on this, or do you want to just sort of jump to the end where you're blasted?
Yeah, I think I just drive this in real close, and then I see like, it's blind, but it still has eyes, right?
It has like those sockets where like the like basically where its eyes were just sort of like burnt and melted in.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I just hear like it's death rattle, and I know like it's about to pop, and my shield's on my back. So I know like I don't have time. And I realize the baby is like in a nest of vines, but I don't know how protective that is. And so I step in front, and then it just splashes me.
Nice. Okay. So take a D8 of damage.
Ouch.
Are you still up?
I am still up. Does armor apply?
Yeah, I think so, right? Because like it wouldn't get at you through the armor.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still up.
Okay. But you are like starting to feel that like cold splash, like and starting to like as these things are like stuff in the blood is starting to like skitter and scamper all around on you. Sarade and Maxon, you guys are sort of like hobbling back towards the cliff. I am. Let's see here. I think I'm going to ask Maxon to defy danger with Khan and aid from Sarade to get there before the things start to get too bad. Does that seem like a reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let me get an extra die since I'm in advantage. Here we go. Ooh, boy, I'm glad there was advantage. That's a 7. I have rolled a 6.
Let's see here. So you guys are going to get out of here, but I think Maxon or Sarade, one of the two of you is going to have to leave something behind. What do you think it is? Something kind of important.
Well, I suppose it should be me.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have that many things that are important.
And I mean, you get his sword, right?
The sword is pretty important.
Let me pay it. You've helped me. I think as you're moving along, where I've have been digging at my pack all this time, bringing out every possible thing that there was to bring out of it. There was one thing that I had left in there that is precious, though I use it seldom because I imagine it's expensive and hard to get hold of. But it's my actual steel dagger.
Mm.
And we hear it clang, 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 and splish as it clangs and goes into the water.
I have to like grab your hand and keep pulling you.
No.
All right. White Tree, you have the like you're like able to grab the baby, right? And I think as you do that, like Tillip sort of like blinks up and kind of like looks back at you and like looks down at Helid, who is just sort of like, kind of staring up at his wife in shock. And just being like, what happened? And Tillip looks at you, looks at the baby, and there's this moment of fury in her eyes where you realize that she thinks that you're trying to take it from her. What do you do?
I make a step towards her and hold the baby, offer it to her, and I say, it's all good, Tulip. She's safe now.
Okay. I think that is like she actually starts to like blink and like tears start to just pour down her eyes, and she just says, this is real. This is, and she like picks her child up from your hands, and you can sort of tell that she is worried that this whole thing is just going to collapse and disappear in front of her. Meanwhile, like Maxon and Serrate are like dragging themselves up, and Amir is sort of like right next to you, just like, get this shit off of me.
I'm glad you're having this wonderful cutscene with the NPC while I roll on the ground. I need some help, please.
Yeah. So as soon as Tulip has the baby, I turn around and I think I use my wool cloak to rub the black goo off him.
Okay. I'm not going to make you roll at this point, right? Like we kind of know that works. And Amir, I'm going to say that you you end up taking the miserable condition or miserable debility, just from like the pain and the burning and the venom kind of pouring through you. So at this point, you all have you've got a rope, right? And you've got a baby, and you've got a bunch of injured people that have to get out of here. I'm not gonna. We're gonna handle this as a struggle as one move. So that's when I call on you to defy danger as a group. You tell me how you are each contributing or doing your part, and then we will each roll as if defy danger.
Serrate has a lot of experience climbing and using knots and getting out of tight situations, and of all of us is actually kind of healthy, considering. And so immediately, as soon as he gets up there, starts like clambering up the walls, taking a piece of adventuring gear out, and tying off another rope so that there's a lot of length, and starts tying other people on and saying, Amir, you got to take. And yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you're using your skill and your climbing expertise to get up there and add an extra rope.
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds like Dex to me. Amir or anyone else? I
think, I'm still mostly whole, more so than some of my other companions. I'm not like, I don't have any broken bones or sprains. I'm just like got torn up pretty bad. So I think I can help like those that are injured, like help them climb a little bit, or else get to the top and like help hoist them up.
Sure. So that sounds like you're using your strength.
Yeah.
Who's taking the kid?
Is she gonna let anyone touch him?
Yeah, I figured she would kind of be grasping onto that child pretty tight.
Oh, that's a good point. So maybe like tying a rope around her and then dragging the rope up after you guys would be the right way to do it.
I'm also curious, is Helid actually going to get out because of the pact he made?
Oh, he's gonna try.
Okay.
I was actually thinking that Tulip would just strangle him because he has saved the baby and
No. I have a moment in mind. All right. White Tree, how are you contributing to this, or how are you doing your part?
Yeah, so White Tree is really weakened, but she sees that Maxim can barely walk. There's something wrong with the ankle, so she applies like a pain-killing remedy to make him put his weight on the leg. Actually.
Okay, so that sounds like either int or wisdom.
Yeah, I think probably
right, so that's more like expertise, actually. So I think that would be intelligence.
Okay.
Oh, hold on! Don't just roll it. I mean, you can roll, but don't tell me your result. And Maxon?
I think kind of going along with my work with what you got, which create an advantage that for next roll to exploit, but just that fictionally. I think even though I'm hurting and weak and of no real physical help, I am sitting down there and sort of bitchily saying, no, that rock looks weak. No, you'll have to tie off that. Be careful, you're going to fall down on top of me, sort of thing, as I'm pointing out the stronger spots to work from.
Sure. Okay.
Does Melkor interfere, Maxon?
We're going to find out. All right, so that sounds like int.
Yeah.
So everybody go ahead and do your roll, and then don't shout out your result yet. And just give me like a thumbs up when you know what you got.
Could an argument be made that I'm actually doing charisma because I'm trying to come up with a plan? The force of just trying to angle for one more +1.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, right? So you could basically be like
I'm trying to take control of the situation and
sure, and like use Maxon's help to. Yeah, that makes sense. Like I have no doubt that you're going to be able to climb out of here. So yeah, go for it. And then once you've made your roll, did anyone get a 6-? No. Okay. So yeah, in that case, we don't have to drop into saving each other. So basically, it works almost exactly as you describe it. With that said, Amir, I need you to roll your followers' quality, which is +1 for their instructions and maneuver to hold the doorway up top.
Okay.
And to see how well that went.
Sure. So 7.
Okay. So I think you all get out there just to, like as the just to kind of paint the scene, right? Like the as you who went up the rope last? I guess probably the girl, or Tulip could be because she was getting dragged up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Tulip was the last one, and Helid was like, no, it's okay, I'll climb. And he starts like climbing the rocks up behind her, just to make sure that she doesn't like fall or that the baby doesn't fall, right? So that someone's there to kind of catch as a backup. And he's in good health, other than the fact that he's got a head wound and everything, and has been choked. And the like stuff is shaking, right? And like that, like as they come out, the cavern below is starting to just collapse and fall and collapse in on itself. And then as you guys get Tulip out the door, or out that front door, out that hole, Helid is sort of like maybe 10, 15 feet down as the thing starts to just shake. And he looks up, and I think White Tree, you're kind of like probably the one kind of like leaning down, and like, because you got the longest reach, maybe you're like reaching down to help him out. And he just sort of looks at you and he nods, and the cavern just collapses and he goes falling down into the darkness and doesn't make it. Amir, as you sort of like, I think you probably got out there first because you were starting to like kind of help people and drag them up. Brig and Cadfell were not hanging out in that room anymore. They had kind of gone back down the tunnel. And as you go to check in on your guys, what you find is that 2 of them have actually one of them is laid out, and like they've actually like draped his cloak over him. And another one is sitting there with just the nastiest smashed up knee that like it's a really, really bad injury. You don't know that he is ever going to recover from it.
Okay.
However, when you sort of like step out, it's light, like the light, or it's kind of early morning at this point. Light is actually pouring into the clearing, and it seems much more natural than any of you have ever, or than it did when you first got here. Like the shadows are not wrong anymore. and the field, as particularly the opening of the mouth, is piled high, just piled high with Crinwin bodies, and they are just. It has been a slaughter. Like at a quick glance, you're thinking that probably 60 Crinwin are dead on the field in the hill in front of you all.
Nice. Yeah, I think so. The one who fell, he was one that was guarding the door and this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
He would still have one inspiration. So can I say like as I come up, like just then, like you can notice the faint like moving of the cloth where his mouth is, just barely. And Brig points it out and it's like they like pull it off and he's like still barely unconscious, and like everyone, like I think everyone even kind of like starts to laugh, like it's almost like hysterical, like oh my gosh, I can't believe like we thought he was dead and I can't believe he's still alive.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think like everyone's got that like giddy adrenaline come down sort of thing as you all start to like pick yourselves up and get ready for the road home. All right, so we're not going to handle the trip home in detail. Is like you've taken care of the most obvious threats and you're an armed party, though even though you're injured, there's not a lot of predators out that are during the day going to be going after a group of 12 armed folks. But for the trip back, I do want you to all I do want to invoke the keep company move. So taking a look at the expedition moves on the maps, the moves and gears sheet, expedition moves, keep company. When you spend a stretch of time together on the road, in camp, etc., and you or the GM call for it, take turns asking one of the following questions of a PC or NPC in camp. And here, why don't I share this so that we can all reference it? All right, so we're looking at this guy right here. So
I've got a question for White Tree. What do we find ourselves talking about?
I mean, I think that White Tree is interested in your time in Marsh Edge, so she would definitely ask a lot of questions about that. I don't know if you're forthcoming with answers, but
yeah, I think I might let on that it was coming down to whether it was Brennan or I that would be running Marsh Edge. And obviously I am not the one in charge of Marsh Edge.
And why did you didn't you pursue that goal?
Oh, it's not that I didn't pursue it. it's
not for lack of trying.
Yes, it was either my life or death in a moment, and I escaped.
And I think what White Tree would share with you is trying to point out the beauty of nature, so that while we are traveling through the forest, I would name creatures or call them even to us like birds or something, to give you like a nice contrast to the unnatural horror that we just relived.
Sarade, if I can interject on that, I think as she's doing that, she'll point something out, and you intellectually recognize it as, yep, that's very pretty, that's very beautiful, that is quite majestic, and there's just something empty about it. Does anyone else want to go next?
I can. Let's see. I like the what do I do in camp that you find so annoying / endearing? I think we deal a lot with Maxim being pretty annoying. I'd actually love to hear something that is endearing to the group about him.
Are you asking someone in particular or just to the whole group?
To the kind of the group, I guess. It says, I don't know. Should it be to someone or to the group? One of the following to a PC. So I think I want to know from White Tree. After all of this, something endearing that Maxon does.
You tell me if this is okay for you, but I think that if you are deep in thoughts and walking maybe a little bit off from all the others, you are singing a tune to yourself, which is actually like you have a pretty voice that normally we don't hear.
I like that. That's wonderful.
I'm picturing Maxon with sort of a oh crap, why am I'm blanking on her name? Singer from the 60s.
Marianne Faithfull?
That's not who I was thinking of, but that might work. Why am I blanking on her name? Known for like a gravelly voice.
Joan Mitchell.
Yes. Yeah.
I could see that.
Cool.
As a question to Amir, how do you pass the time?
I think I passed the time listening to my 4 fighters who are at the front, regale us with the tale of like how they were successful. And I don't contribute a word. I don't even like really talk about what happened in the cavern. Like, I think I just let them shine in their glory for like what they've done for us. And like, even if they ask like what happened in there, I'm just like, well, we got the kid back. And in particular, like that one young man who we thought was dead has like regained consciousness. We're still having to carry him, but like he's got some stories to tell,
Remember that time I died, guys? Remember that time I died?
Remember that time you thought I was dead?
You think you didn't bury me?
Yeah, he's got a good sense of humor about it, at least.
Yeah. I will say this: the one guy, Amir, that his leg was all messed up. You are almost positive that he might be able to like hold a line in the militia, but you don't think he's going to be able to hang with the crew going forward.
That's all right. We need a drill sergeant, anyways. It's high time that somebody else barks orders.
You want to give that guy a name?
Yeah. So I think that the one that everyone thought was dead was Urine.
Urian?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one that won't be able probably to fight, but will maybe make a decent trainer in the future, I think is Alfred.
Alfred. Okay. And you got him pegged for a new drill sergeant.
Yeah, I don't think he knows it yet. I think he's still like under the illusion that like, oh yeah, I'll get over this and then I can fight again. But
Okay.
I'm not gonna bring it up now.
Cool. And I have a question for Saraid. Jesus, for Saraid. What do you, and at some point you find yourself like hanging back with Tilip, and what do the two of you find yourselves talking about?
I think we start talking about Helid. And I think possibly there's just a moment where Saraid mentions something about like a time Helid returned from the fields, and how it was like maybe the night of their wedding. And Tilip has this little moment where she says, "But you were in Marsh Edge. How would you remember that?" And Saraid's not entirely sure.
Creepy. All right. Aside from the conversations, right, the journey is uneventful. You've got you're kind of limping along. It takes a couple of hours. For all of you that haven't been tainted with darkness, the beauty of the Great Woods is really somewhat striking as you go. Just like the light sort of dappling down through the canopy. It's got that cool morning after a stormy night sort of feel to it. The mugginess isn't even necessarily there anymore. And as you get to home and start sort of like trudging up that cliffside that it was in there, sort of as you peek over that and start to actually march in towards the town, there's like calls kind of coming out from people that are like saying they're back, and like folks are everyone's starting to kind of like milling out, and the folks that are out in the fields you can sort of see them turning, and a lot of them drop what they're doing and start heading in to find out what's going on. There's a lot of people are asking all sorts of questions. I think Amir, your crew, Urian, is getting doted over by all sorts of folks, right? Like his mom and his sister keep showing up, and they're just like, oh my god, what happened? And he starts telling his tale, and not too long after that, people are like, oh, get this guy some whiskey, right? And like start plying the story, and like the tale of them holding the line against the Crinwin is the thing that everybody seems to be most interested in hearing, and the story that folks are like latch on to. Saraid, the Gilgor or Gylor ends up kind of like trumps in from the fields, maybe a little bit more later than everybody else, and he like makes a beeline for Tulip, and just like gives her a huge hug, holds the baby, and is just doting all over her and everything. And there's definitely like a lot of smiling and happiness, and then he realizes that Helid isn't there. And then there's just this sort of like quiet moment between them. And then Gylor kind of comes over, like looks at you and steps over, and you can see that he realizes that something is off about you. And he like gives you a hug after after a pause, but then kind of like steps back and is just kind of looking at you and sort of reserved. And what do you say?
I'm still really shaking, Gylor. We saw Helid go. It was harrowing.
And you're sort of just trying to brush it off as you're in mourning and shock, not anything else.
Yeah, and I'll use the silver tongue to avoid suspicion or trouble.
Oh, I don't know that you necessarily need to roll it, right? I think that there's just this sense of okay, and you take your time.
I think I might be finding my own place to stay, Gylor.
It might be about time. All right, so kind of zooming out, is there anything that folks want to do immediately upon returning? Like any scenes that you wanted to play out, or people that you wanted to talk to?
I don't know if it takes a whole scene, but I do think that once I get back and within that first day or so, I'm going to go by Ifan's farm and just sort of see if there's something I can do for his family, just some sort of little something that might help them. Obviously I'm not going to be digging ditches for them or anything, but anything that my talents could help them with. Sure.
When you're like all about the works of humanity and civilization, right? So you're probably like a deft hand at carpentry and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what sort of thing do you think you help them out with? What little improvement do you make to their lives?
I think that with one of the stronger hands having been gone from the family, I think maybe like the house where they've thatched, it's not as well patched as it could be, and I think I go in and kind of help them seal up and maybe even see my scrawny ass up there helping put that thatch into bed. Well, it's never going to lay quite right like this sort of thing. Nice. Bitching the whole time, but still up there helping.
Okay. And I think let's see here. Let's name them. I don't think we've used Merid yet, have we?
I don't think so.
So Ifan's widow is named Merid, and she's got a couple. Like they had a couple of kids. I think the oldest is maybe 13, and just like a young man starting to help out in the fields.
Then I think actually, I'll help with that, but I think I'm also going to say that all children really should know how to read.
Nice. And so you start kind of like coming by and tutoring him on that?
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. Is there anybody else have like a thing that they want to establish?
I want to know like who, if anyone, mourns Gorlis.
I think Gorlis was like an old bachelor, right? I mean, he spent most of his time either drinking in a corner in the pub or out in the wood by himself. So I think like the other trappers maybe like give it like when you tell them what happened, or at least tell them that the Crinwin got him, right? No one, of course, mentions that he lost his nerve and like fucking got himself killed.
No.
I think it'd be cool if Yorath, the publican who runs the bar and probably spent the most time with Gorlas over these years,
maybe
sort of
yeah,
a Gorlas night where there's like a whiskey special kind of thing.
He's sad at least. Like, I think like me and the barman, like we just whatever the like proper religious symbol is to have as a gravestone. I think he and I plant one in the ground for Gorlas, even though we planted out in the forest, you know, where he lived his life. But I think he and I do that.
That's great. Saraid, what? How do you and your family mourn Helid, or how does the village, I guess, mourn Helid?
I mean, it's actually a it's the standard funeral for Stonetop. There's a ceremony at the central stone. And there's like a thing about when lightning next strikes the stone that is Helid. And there's a wreath of flowers made and laid on the wall. And there's like, you have to go a certain step away on the wall every time someone dies. It's sort of like a clock. But I think the part that really strikes Sarid is that where this has happened many times before in Sarid's life when he was younger, and like the whole community's involved. There's not that many of us. We all know each other. Sarid is completely emotionless throughout the whole thing, where Sarid has openly wept and been, and Helid of all people, his cousin, feels nothing.
Do you think anyone notices?
Probably my mother.
Yeah. Are you avoiding her when she comes to ask you about it?
Oh gosh, yes.
Okay. Cool. What's White Tree up to as the season starts to turn?
Well, like immediately after the return to the village, she would obviously give offerings to Danu, and lay down like the effigy that she showed Maxon as a ward-off gesture. And as the season turns, she would definitely once in a while check in with Tulip and Katie, because she has the creeping suspicious or like the fear that something could have been planted in Katie, or that there's like some kind of lasting effect, and making sure like making talismans or something to ward off the evil.
Sure. So speaking of which, you all definitely do have time, right? So like you got home, things settle in, you kind of get back to your routines in life. So if anyone wants to do the level up move and has the XP for it, absolutely go ahead and do so. Also, I'm going to increase the town's fortunes by 1 because you pulled off a triumphant return. David, anything I can help with, or are you just looking over your choices?
Just looking over my choices. I think I've decided.
Okay. What are you going with?
I'm going with a veteran crew, and I'm still deciding on which advantage I want to pick. I'm probably well equipped. I think after this, the town sees our worth and makes the investment to upgrade our equipment.
Cool. So that means they get what, leather jerkins and
they get boiled
swords?
leather, and they get bronze arming swords. So sweet.
That's pretty badass.
And you tell me if this is too much, David, but I think it would be really cool if all of the people who fought at the maw like carve a little maw at one of the parts of their shield as sort of like a badge of honor that they fought.
Yeah, I think that starts to be a tradition.
Cool. So do you, Alfred, you kind of work him into his role as a drill sergeant?
Yeah, I think like whenever the dust is settled and like he's come to terms with like he's not going to be able to move like he could before, I start to ease him into the duties of running the muster and the drills, and he takes to it, hopefully.
Yeah, I think he does. I'm kind of imagining. Well, does Amir get a sword? Or
Does
Amir, do you pick up a sword as well?
Do I take a sword? Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And do you know, like, are you the one that sort of teaches them how to fight with a sword, or do you bring Saraid in?
I don't know. Does Saraid know a lot about sword fighting?
Yes. Saraid's quite skilled with the sword, but like fine sword. So, I think Saraid is still leery, although I don't know, maybe Saraid's a little colder now, a little less forgiving on the new recruits, admonishes them for their lack of precision with their weapons.
Yeah, I think I train them in like the practicalities of like group combat with swords, like almost Roman line fighting style with swords, where it's very mechanical. But I think like there's like a little, not quite underground, but like a fight club thing where you're like training them how to do like really acrobatic one-on-one combat, and they keep like doing that with each other. I don't really participate, but I don't stop them because any martial activity is good activity.
You think you're always going to be in a shield wall? You're a fool. Grip it higher.
Amir, who do you pick as a replacement on your crew for Alfred?
I think it's about a year later, and that boy is now a man, and he comes back. And he comes like running up with the shield, and it's carved. And I think I tap it, and I'm like, "You haven't quite earned that yet, have you?" And then I think I slap him on the shoulder, and I'm like, "Go see Alfred. He'll make sure that you earn it."
Nice. Okay, so I think that maybe not like a full year later, right? But maybe like this kind of like rolls us into summer, right? And then as Bethan, the new kid, is getting trained up. But I think that means that it would be time to make the seasons change move. So that you can find that on the moves and gear list. And I'll go ahead and put this up on screen. So when the long, hot days of summer settle in across the land, whoever is the most content rolls 1d4 minus 1, and the setting generates that much surplus. So who do you think among you is the most content?
Amir's pretty content. How's White Tree?
Well, not content.
So Amir's the only one who's content. Life's good at this like chapters in for Amir.
Cool. So roll a d4 minus 1 for the summer bounty.
Okay. 2.
Okay, so with the 1 that you start with from spring, that means that you have 3 surplus to go around. And then can you give me plus fortunes, which is currently a plus 2 because of your triumphant return.
So roll
Just a normal
Again,
2d6 plus fortunes, which is 2.
2d6 plus 2. Okay. That's boxcars, baby.
Nice. Okay. So you might actually want to pull up the moves and gears sheet and look at this yourself. Because of the 10 plus, choose 2 from the gains list.
Are these home front moves? Is that what I'm...
Yes. So I think that's page 3 in moves and gear.
Okay.
So you get to pick 2 seasonal gains, and everyone feel free to like make suggestions, but it is ultimately the person who rolls is their choice.
I'll just say that fictionally, I think Danu's blessing is probably justified.
I think it's the first 2. I think Danu's blessing, fine weather, good crops, and ample game.
Okay.
And then unexpected bounty, because we've culled out like a dangerous predator of the forest, so now there's an influx of wild game.
That's great. That makes perfect sense. So that also means, okay, so that means that the town is up to 4 surplus. And it also means that there's no real hooks, right? So you didn't choose an opportunity, you didn't roll a 7 to 9, so there's no threat getting worse on the town. So it basically means that you guys get to sort of decide what's going to happen next. So I'd like to go around and say, like, what is everyone up to in the summer or this summer? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish? What do you want to do? And I will point you to on the steading playbook, on the second page of the steading playbook. And I guess let me update our surplus here. On the second page of the steading playbook, there is this improvement, which kind of gives us a list of things that that you might want to pursue for the town. So maybe take a look at that. But Maxon, I think you're probably the one with the most obvious agenda. So I don't know, do you have any thoughts on what sorts of things you might be up to in the summer or want to get up to in the summer during the summer?
Yeah, I'm definitely attempting to troll through books, and if we have any traders who wander through, we have all this extra surplus. Maybe we're trading a little here and there. And I'm looking for rumors of a white granite giant statue type thing, or the bronze helm for the mine gem, as I'm trying to placate the mine gem. And if I'm not hearing any rumors of that, I would be interested in either going after that wooden sphere, or are starting to hit up Emir for there's something I think that would help the whole town if you a small excursion to the White Fang Mountains. I have heard a rumor of a cave there.
Well, I think you've actually been there.
I know where it is.
Okay. Yeah, so let's actually handle I know it's not really like relying on your own knowledge, but let's handle the like looking for a lead on the on the mighty servant.
Mm-hmm.
Let's handle that with a spout lore.
All right. Would this be the makers and their works?
Of course.
Arts. Yay. So I roll with advantage.
I don't think you roll with advantage. I think that you get to ask a follow-up question.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm so sorry. Of course you're right. You wrote it. So that I rolled 9, 10, 11.
Great. So something interesting and something useful. I think that you hear from a passing merchant of a... So it's not even so much a passing merchant. It's a rogue that kind of like comes through from Gordon's Delve. Actually, it's a rogue that's on their way out to Gordon's Delve.
Mm-hmm.
And this fool spends a few days in Stonetop. Saraid, I think it's probably somebody that you might know from your days back in Marsh Edge, which we'll ask about him in a little bit. But he ends up going, he hears about the ruined tower, which is about a day's outside of town. It's this massive rampart, like fallen rampart of Maker ruins. And people have always talked about how there must be things below, right? Things down there, not things below, things like tunnels and stuff underneath it for exploring. And so this fool kind of goes out there on his own, and he comes back maybe 2 days later, filled with all sorts of crazy stories about a basement filled with wonders. And in particular, he, like, I think you probably like ply him for all sorts of information, Maxon. And he tells you about this secret or like blocked off door that he managed to get into. And inside was this massive white marble statue.
Interesting.
Saraid, who is this guy, and why does his arrival in town bug the shit out of you?
This is Duga from Barrier Pass. Duga and I used to run in the same circles in Marsh Edge before Duga got relegated out to what's the other place? The Stones Reach.
Gordon's Delve.
Gordon's Delve, that's it. Gordon's Delve. And I think Saraid is responsible for Duga's exodus. I think there was a political maneuvering that caused Duga to have to leave amongst the claws. And so I think Saraid for most of the summer, because the sunlight is kind of unbearable, is staying inside and, is only more inclined to stay inside when he sees Duga at the public house.
So you said that he was originally from Barrier Pass?
Originally, yes. Made it to Marsh Edge. Was part of the Claws, or was at least another shady character in Marsh Edge. Maybe not actually a Claw.
Sure.
Actually, Saraid was supposed to kill Duga.
Ooh.
But Duga got away. But Duga saw Saraid and now is trying to not be seen.
Interesting. Okay. So you probably like saw him before he saw you, and you've been like dodging him the entire summer. Which is impressive, given that you live in a town of 300 people and can't go outside, or can't stand the sunlight. I guess that makes it
a lot of time in the woods.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So that kind of gives you your lead, Maxon, if that's something that you are interested in following up on.
Okay, and just, I don't want to try and take away a bunch from other people, so I try and do this quickly. But have I noticed that Saraid is have I noticed this kind of dark and kind of colder nature of his?
I think it's reasonable that you did, but Saraid, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think Saraid's very good at hiding it, at least.
And we were friends. We're friends.
Yeah, and Saraid's become a lot colder as of late.
Then I think that in the course of the night one evening, as I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm warming myself by the heat of the mighty servant's heart there, even though it's summer. I think I'm going to consult the Whispering Rocks.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong about Sarid? So I roll intelligence. Oh, that could go wrong. I got a. Let's see. No, I got a 6.
You got a 6. Okay. So I believe it. And on a 6 minus, the stones rest a secret from your mind.
They do.
What secret do you think that they pull from your mind, and why are you a little bit worried about the fact that you've revealed that to them?
I think that I was looking into Sarid because I feel after that encounter that maybe I still feel the pressure a little bit of what that thing was saying in my mind. And I'm afraid he felt similar. And I think that my secret is I'm still kind of hearing that voice when I'm sleeping.
Sure. Okay. That's kind of grim. Cool. Amir, actually, White Tree. What is White Tree up to as summer, as spring rolls into summer? And Danny's blessing is all about us.
I was looking over the static improvements, but the only thing that's a little bit relevant for Whiteree would be our ox hunting. So she would approach the hunters of the town and suggest to that she will tame wild horses if and only if they would give their offerings after a successful hunt to the what's it called, the place where Danu is worshipped.
Oh, the pavilion, like that they would basically like do an offering to her, that like the first fruits or something like that.
Yeah, like I assume that taming the horses is the first step to improve the aurochs hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they successfully hunt these creatures, that they, I don't know, bring the horns or something and offer them at the temple.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Give me a parlay to convince the hunters of this.
That is an 8.
An 8. So I think they agree to this, but they need your help to go out and actually like track down the wild horses and corral them and bring them home.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And she would then like call the at least call the horses towards them, so that it's easier for them to tame them.
Okay, I think that might. I don't know if we're going to play it out full on adventure, but it'll definitely be a bit of an expedition to go out and try and capture some horses. All right, so let's put a pin in that. Amir. Oh, go ahead.
Just quickly, I mean, Whiteree and Sarade had the discussion on the way back. Did she? I mean, she's attuned to nature. Did she get the feeling that something's off with Sarade?
Do you want me to roll an interfere for that?
Yeah. I mean, I could roll discern realities and you interfere if you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so roll the interfere first, then.
Okay. I'll roll the interview.
Tell us how you're like. I'm guessing just through charisma, right? Like
I would
hiding
think
it.
charisma. Yeah, I'm bluffing and telling people that I'm still really broken up about Helid, and that I'm just not getting any sleep at night. And after all of that, and I think those of us who were down there understand that part at least. But we'll see how well you. Ooh, I got boxcars +2. That's a 14.
Wow.
Okay,
But-
so that means you have to either relent White Tree, or you can still do your discern realities, but you'll be at disadvantage.
I do it at disadvantage. And that is a 7.
Okay, so that means you still get to ask one of the questions.
Let's see.
And Greg, I think you're just going to be the one answering this.
That's cool.
Who or what is really in control here is probably the most applicable.
I think you have that dream again, where you're deep underground. You fell asleep thinking about what is going on with Sarah. You have that dream again, but this time, instead of bursting out of the ground, you actually feel like this blackness and darkness grabbing at your feet and pulling you down, and there's just a whisper that says, "Lad, lad, lad." And when you burst out of the ground, you see my face instead.
So,
No worries.
Jeremy, it doesn't have to be like an amulet that actually does anything, but she wants to make an amulet that wards off evil.
And give it to who?
And give it to Sarade.
Okay. I mean, you definitely have like time and light and leisure to do this and replenish your stock. So if you want to make an actual thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to do so. If you're making him an actual charm that wards off evil.
Yeah,
Right.
that like helps him maybe mechanically or fictionally to resist a dark urge.
Perfect. Okay, so like it's an amulet against evil influence.
Yep.
Okay. You don't actually roll until it gets triggered.
Okay.
So just make a note, Sarade, that you have an amulet against evil influence from White Tree, and the next time that you would suffer that influence, that will kick in, and White Tree will roll to see how well it works. So you're protected.
I'd be interested to see how Sarade reacts when White Tree offers him the charm or the talisman.
I think, is it like in wrappings or is it bare?
It is bare. I offer it to you.
What's it look like?
I think it's probably something like it looks a little bit like a dream catcher in small. So it is round in shape and it has these feathers made from like twigs.
Thank you, White Tree. I don't know what to say.
Okay, cool. So White Tree, you just gave that amulet to Sarade, and Sarade was kind of awkward about receiving it, but yeah. And Amir, we haven't really talked about what you want to get up to this summer.
Yeah, I like this plan to get horses and things. I don't think you can really make a living just being part of the guard. So I think there's a lot of overlap between the hunters and the guards. So I'm all behind that. Like, I'll help out with that any way I can. Otherwise, like, seems like we need ourselves somebody who knows how to build stuff. maybe Maxine knows how to build stuff. I don't know. Maybe we need to find somebody who knows how to build stuff, or test the talent for, who's good at numbers and
You mean like to be an
geometry.
engineer or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
I think Maxon, that seems like something that you would be able to fill, a role you would be able to fill. Do you
I'm
think so?
probably better at being the engineer than I am the actual building. But yeah, I probably could do the engineering bit.
Yeah, so besides the horses, I think it's high time we at least had like a palisade around here.
Mm. So yeah, I think the tricky part with the palisade is going to be getting wood for it.
Right, because we've made a deal we don't cut from the forest, do we?
Yeah, that's sort of a long-standing tradition. Is like according to the town, it was a compact made with the forest folk when people first settled in Stonetop that they would never fell a living tree.
And I imagine White Tree reminds us of it often.
And I warn of the dire consequences if the pact is broken.
Yeah, so typically when the town needs timber, they take one of the two kind of plodding old horses that the town has and hook them up to the wagon, and they do a trip up to the foothills, which is a couple hours, a couple days to the northeast of town.
I'll point out that the far-reaching reputation is another steady improvement, and it starts with impressing the hillfolk. I think the hillfolk might be impressed with stories of us, the battle at the Maw and defeating the Crinwin.
Well, and
or
actually cooperating with the hillfolk is one of the two of the three possible requirements for aurochs hunting. Plus, getting more horses would also give you more flexibility in going up and getting wood from the palisade, or to build a palisade. So, it seems like horse hunting would probably be the most advantageous thing for the group to get up to.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits from securing some horses.
Cool. All right. So as far as like horses go, that there are the flats, right, which is kind of this wide open space and let's see if I can do this without canceling our session again. So the flats are this wide open space to the east, to the west of Stonetop. It's basically just a huge tall grass prairie, which none of you, like as players, have probably actually experienced a real tall grass prairie because they basically don't exist anymore. But they are like. Imagine the kind of Great Plains as we know them, but with like weedy, thorny grasses that are often growing like neck or even like feet above head height, right? And there's parts of it that are not nearly as thick, right? It's more like the kind of shorter midgrass prairies that we are used to. But the whole thing is roamed with aurochs, kind of roam through there. There's probably a half dozen small bands of wild horses that roam around in there. And the hill folk typically come down and raid wild horses or capture wild horses when their breeding stock tends to run low. So if you're going to go out there and try and track wild horses down and capture some, as far as ways to do that, well, recruiting a guide from the hill folk would definitely be one way to do it. White Tree, you might be able to do some of your magic to try and draw some of the horses to you. That would probably require spouting some lore to get some ideas on how to do that, unless you just have some clever thought that comes to mind. Or I guess you could just blunder out into the miles and miles and miles of tall grass trying to look for sign of horse and track them down, but that seems like a fairly foolish way to go about it. So I think probably your two best bets would be to try and recruit someone from the hill folk, or to see if White Tree knows some magic that would work.
I mean, we could do both because I think establishing relationship with the hill folk is advantageous anyways, and one of the requirements.
Sure. So you want to spout lore first, and then we'll talk about the
Yeah, she's trying to remember what she heard from the forest folk, or what she has heard from other sources about behavior of horses, where they breed, how they move.
Okay, go for it.
And it is a 9.
A 9. Okay. I think what you know about horses that might be relevant here is that pretty much every herd of horses has a spirit, sort of to the herd itself. It's often you've heard it referred to as a kefelreg, which basically translates as a horse bride. But they are haughty and they are less like brides and more like queens of each of these things. So that might be something that you can make use of. But it's kind of on you to figure out how. Meanwhile, Sarade, you know all sorts of people, don't you?
Yes, I do. That's yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I have the move, the prodigal return. When I declare that you know someone outside of Stonetop, someone who can help, name them and roll plus charisma. So I remember from my time in Marsh Edge, there was a hill folk, Rawl. And Rawl sort of got down there through a strange set of circumstances. And Rawl actually has a lot of experience riding horses and was working as a stable boy in sort of an indentured servitude kind of situation. And yeah, I guess we'll find out more with the roll, what exactly Rawls, how exactly that all panned out. Plus charisma. Okay, so it's a 7. They can help pick one from the list. They hold a grudge. You're gonna need something. They swore off this kind of thing. I don't think he swore off this kind of thing. They're greedy, sleazy, disloyal. I don't think he's that either. They still hold a grudge.
What for?
Or I kind of tying in with the second one as well. I took a horse, and there was a deal made for how much I got it up front, and I would pay when I got it back, and the horse never made it back.
Gotcha. Okay, so you took a horse with some down payment, and then no, I'll cover you when I get back, and then it's like when you rent a car and then bring it back totaled.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And that probably got him in trouble with the hostel that he was working at, or the hostlery that he was working at, and he had to leave town.
Yep.
Okay, so that sort of puts him back in amongst the hill folk. Okay, cool. We didn't bring a horse back. All right. So if you wanted to get in touch with someone in the hill folk, that would typically be a trip to Titanbone. Let the signal fire off, or light up the signal fire, and then wait for folks to come. And then it's probably the sort of thing where, to get word to Rawl, right? And then somehow get him to come back and meet up with you all. You're probably looking at a few weeks of just sort of working through that. Things do not move at super fast speeds out here, but you've got all summer to do it. So I'm thinking somebody runs out, does that little expedition. And Serraid, seems like you would be the
probably, since I know
main person to go. So what do you, when you sort of like set the signal fire and a handful of hill folk come riding out, right? Of course, it's not Rawl. So what do you tell them, and what do you offer to Rawl, like through them to, or how do you try and convince Rawl to come and help you all out?
Brave hill folk. I, Serraid, salute you from Stonetop. Stonetop wishes to hunt these flats, and we need more horses. We ask your expertise. Specifically, we ask the expertise of Rawl. And you can tell Rawl that Serraid will pay him back double for the horse he took. So I'm promising Rawl 2 of the horses that we find. Praying for a bountiful horse harvest. In order to pry his expertise. I'm guessing horses are kind of a marker of status among the hill folk.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like they are a nomadic people, right? And so like horses, like I've largely kind of pictured them almost like the Comanche, right? Like like horse riding hill folk. And so, yeah, having a horse, having a couple of good horses, and actually capturing wild horses is definitely a sign of respect. So you're basically, it sounds like you're trying to play up on his ego.
Yeah.
Okay. So even though it's sort of like passing through like word of mouth, I think this is going to be a parlay.
I think so too. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and roll it.
Oh, sweet. That's a 13.
13. Okay. I think that you are going to need to put in the message something along the lines that basically you need to debase yourself a little bit before him, or like kind of work that into the message to not bad, right? But just like,
right.
You know more about horses than I ever could, and I've never seen anyone who's so good with them, and I need your help.
So there's a tradition among the hill folk that if someone loses their horse, not like death, but like they lose control of their horse, that you have to wear a bridle. And so they when Rawl returns, I have to put this bridle in my mouth, and through it say that I'm sorry in the hillfolk tongue as an apology.
So you like you tell them, the hillfolk, that you'll wear the bridle or something like that?
Yeah, I will wear the bridle for the loss of that horse.
Okay. Cool. So they chuckle to themselves, right? And like you can tell that they're sort of saying stuff under their breath, and well, maybe you don't speak the language, but maybe Maxon's there, and Maxon is basically just like sort of snorting at the insults that they're coming up for the stupid kid that doesn't know how to ride a horse. But yeah, they take off the word. They actually do. They say that they'll spread the word, and later that summer, a small group of hillfolk show up in town. One of them is Rawl, and he is super excited to see you do the bit with the bridle. And he makes absolutely certain that it's happening in like either in or outside of the public house where everyone gets to see it.
Yeah, it's terrible. He makes me do it multiple times, but I think quickly the perhaps one of the others steps in, and we get to the business of capturing these horses.
All right, cool. White Tree, do you have any thoughts on how you might take advantage of your knowledge?
Yeah, so while Serraid is humiliating himself, she has been working on a mask. So one of the items I chose is a wood carving kit, and she's carving a horse mask, and she's planning to conjure the kettle rag. Is that the name?
Keflareg. Yeah, it's a horrible word.
And
Let's see if I
that
can
she,
find the spelling for it.
yeah, that would be cool.
It might take a minute.
I was trying to Google it, but there was no.
Oh yeah, it's not a real thing. I just made it up. Here.
But in any case, there will be a whole ceremony where she wears the horse mask and dances, probably naked, with symbols drawn on her body, trying to appease the horse wife.
All right. So White Tree, are you thinking that you're going to do that to like use your call the spirits move, like when you're out on the plains, or are you doing that to sort of appease the spirits before you go out on this hunt?
No, it will be on the plains themselves.
Okay. Cool. Maxon, are you going with them? Or are you gonna like stay behind?
Well, staying behind sounds like no fun, but I don't know how much help I would be. But I mean, I would hate to just sit here and listen, I suppose. So I probably will go.
We need your cunning. How are we going to corral them?
That's a good point. Like typically the hill folk just go out and they lasso like one or two between them, and like just sort of like drag them back to a camp that they have already set up. So yeah, like I think you're going to probably need to set up a corral somewhere that you can then bring them in, and then at that point, White Tree might very well be able to tame them and convince them to come back to Stonetop.
I think
Right.
Serraid will aid you with whatever plan you have, Maxon, because Serraid has no interest in getting anywhere near the hill folk after that humiliating ceremony.
And I mean, if we're going to have hill folk around, I may need to translate some.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so I'm picturing you all kind of like out on this prairie, right? So, it's high summer, so the sun is just beating down. There's absolutely no shade. You've all gone out there. Probably some or all of your crew is with you, Amir, right? Since you said that they were the hunters, or a lot of them were hunters as well.
Yeah, I think like 4 of them are hunters, and the other 2 are here just because they're interested in this whole horse thing.
Sure. And you're
We're not
probably going to make them learn how to ride horses, aren't you?
Absolutely. We're going to appropriate these for cavalry purposes from time to time.
I got the impression that Amir's culture, maybe before he was enslaved, that he was a nomad himself. Is that?
I don't know if he knows his culture. I think he might have been a slave the whole time.
Okay.
But like, so the slave culture was kind of share and share alike, and that's kind of how he knows how to live. Like that's why he has this warped kind of different idea of like personal property and real property. Like,
sure. That's actually probably why you get along in Stonetop better than you get along in, say, any of the other places that you would have shown up, right? It's just a much more communal community. It's cool.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think I agree. Like, it's good that they're taking me in and kind of, I'm just whatever I can do to help. But I do the marshaling, and there's not like a taxes or anything that pay us, so I just do other things to get by, and people let me stick around.
Sure, absolutely. All right. So we're like the crew and Amir and Serraid and and the hill folk, including Rawl, right? You're all out there. Maxon and Serraid, I think you have like kind of dragged out a bunch of like rope and like sticks, right? Pikes that you kind of like got from the great wood, and you're sort of building out this corral to try and hopefully at least hold these horses. And you all had to haul this shit out here, right? So like you've been heading out this entire time.
Well, and I also think, here this is a bit of Tyler's knowledge, but I imagine Maxim's way smarter than Tyler. So, but I think I cut down on how many of the stakes we had to bring, with the concept that we would cut down, since this is the tall bramble type plain, so we can make like in Africa where they'll do the bundles of thorn bushes they cut down and bundle them up between spikes. And because it makes a barrier, animals won't go through it, even though it's much easier to build and lighter. And, if they really tried, they could just shove through it. But they don't. That's how they protect a lot of villages from lions and such.
Oh, that's super smart. Cool. I like that a lot. Now, with that said, while you are doing that, one of the big dangers that you always have out on the flats are pack drakes, hunting drakes, which are these little, basically they're like actual real velociraptors, right? Not Utah raptors like from the movies, but like, maybe small dog-sized, slightly feathered reptile drakes that just like run around through the wood or through the grass, and they're just the worst. So what do you all do to sort of like keep these things away while you are, one, marching through the grass to find this opportune spot, and two, to keep them away while you are, putting up this corral?
White Tree, do you know much about these things?
Let me think. Can I spout law about their biggest natural enemies?
Sure.
Nope, it's a 4.
All right. So I think that your experience with them is you don't have any direct experience with the hunting drakes, right? Like you grew up in the Great Wood, and in the Great Wood there are big old feathered drakes, which are maybe like 2 or 3 times the size. They look more like cassowaries than they do like dinosaurs, but like cassowaries with teeth. And I think the thing that about those, and you sort of maybe assume works the same way out with these things, right? Because who the fuck else knows? Is basically like these high-pitched whistles, right? That are supposed to sort of keep these things at bay, or keep them. It just bugs them, right? And they just stick or stay away. And so you've got, I'm picturing you now like out there, and everyone's got this wood carved whistle that you've maybe like made for them, and everyone's just like walking around, and every 5 minutes go like, and Serraid and the crew are largely busy just like chopping down these brushes, and under Maxon's direction, sort of like putting together these bundles and everything. It's super hot. Everyone's sweating. Every minute or so, every 30 seconds or so, somebody's just like, ugh, and blowing the whistle. And Amir, are you like supervising, or are you like cutting and pulling your weight with this as well?
Yeah, I think we're putting our new swords to field work use. And
okay.
And like I think we're not like wearing armor, but we still have like our swords and our shields, and we're using the shields to like push the brambles so we don't cut ourselves, and then using the swords to chop down new ones. And then whenever like a velociraptor thing comes around, we'll blow the whistle, and if it won't go away, we'll punt it or slash at it or whatever.
Sure. Oh, so sorry, I just have to share this. This is the picture that I used for the hunting drakes.
Yeah, those look obnoxious.
Yeah. I just love the fact that I found this picture of like plastic dinosaurs in the grass. Right. Okay, so yeah, okay, so you are doing this, right? And you're like you haven't actually seen any of these hunting drakes, and maybe you're all thinking like, oh, good, the whistles seem to be working. When let's see here. Saraid, Jesus, Saraid. I think you've probably got the sharpest ears, and you're maybe just like leaning on one of these like brambly posts, right? Maybe got like a cloak over it or something like that. You're just catching your breath, maybe having a drink of water, and there's this like rustling through the grass that is not like, it's sort of contrary to the wind, right? Like the wind actually dies down for a second and then just what do you do?
Angling for discern realities. I think Saraid very quickly starts looking around and like sort of starts smelling, like maybe there's a distinctive smell that they should be looking for on the wind, and notices that where the sound is coming is actually like from upwind. So if there's a smell, it will be coming to them. And I have perceptive, so I get a question even on a 6-, although I may not like the answer. And that's exactly what I got. So what is about to happen?
So what is about to happen is I'm kind of picturing like your eyes sort of darting, your head cocked, you're like sniffing about, and you realize that what is about to happen is that like Raoul is sort of standing. You've maybe sort of made this like little sea like clearing in the woods, started to like form the barrier, and you're maybe here right to the north side of it. The wind's coming from down that way, and you sort of like figure out, oh shit, and you look down and Raoul is sort of standing just inside the clearing that hasn't actually had the barrier constructed, right? Just it's got like kind of an edge of grass, and he's sort of just standing there looking up at you, and you just get this sense of, oh shit, pack hunting. If there's two north of me, and like you get this sniff on the wind, and he is just about to have something. In fact, I think like as you go,
Roll!
This thing just like jumps, like snakes out of the grass, chomps onto his leg, and like starts pulling it back. And you are almost positive that as soon as you, if you were to like turn and move towards him, you're pretty sure that there are at least 2 or 3 in the woods to the north near you, that if you lower your guard, they're going to come jumping in at you.
Can I see the one that's attacking Raoul?
Barely, yeah. Like he's
okay. I'm going to shoot at it with my bow.
All right.
All right, here we go. Oh, very nice. 9. That's a 10.
Okay, cool. So deal your damage.
Oh, only 1.
Okay. I think it's still enough though that so you like Raoul's kind of like freaking out a little bit, right? And then he like looks up just in time to see you with an arrow like cocked and like right at him, and he's just like and shunk. It doesn't actually like it's just a glancing blow at the thing, but it's enough to make it just like and it skitters into the wood.
White Tree, like, you said the whistles would work.
And like as you're doing that, you start to like hear the like rustling coming at you from behind. Amir, I think you're up near where Saraid was, and like sort of hear the rustling coming in from the woods, or not from the woods, from the grass towards him. What do you do?
I hear it coming. I'm gonna try and intercept it.
Okay. So, like, you're going for a defend?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So actually, are you going for a defend, or are you just trying to like chop it down, intercept it as it comes out of the grass?
Yeah, I think I wasn't gonna like cut it down. I was probably just gonna like just hit it real hard with the shield and make it go tumbling back so it doesn't get to him, and it just instead just gets deflected.
Sure, that sounds like a defend. Then go ahead and roll it.
Cool. Oh, 6.
Okay. So you so you do actually get between him and one of them. Unfortunately, you don't get between him and both of them. And the one that you do put yourself between gets like you can like and try and get the shield out, and it just sort of like snaps. Yeah, I don't think it actually like gets a hold on you, but I think you weren't just expecting the like didn't have time to plant yourself well enough, and it just sort of like barrels down, and now you're laying on your back, and you've got this thing like like snapping over the shield as you're trying to get your balance. And unfortunately, Saraid, like the other one comes tumbling like running out of the grass, and you have like this brief moment to turn as it's just like leaping at you like what do you do?
Try and punch it because I don't have a free hand. I'm just gonna try and get it midair.
Fuck it, roll hack and slash.
Hack and slash plus strength because it's not finesse. Oh yes. That's an 11.
That's an 11. Okay.
And I will do extra damage. I want to hurt it.
You're going to do extra damage?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I should warn you all, these things don't have that many hit points.
Oh, okay. Oh, then I'll what's the there's no other option. I'll just do 4.
You do 4? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you you take it out. So describe this for us, please.
Yeah, it's just like it's this lightning flash that maybe Maxon or White Tree is the only one who actually sees it because Amir is like but just like shoots one and then quickly and just boom, just a cross punch, like sort of a periphery. And maybe there's like this little voice, like Saraid, I can't even do it. Saraid, like later is reflecting like there was a little like tingle, like danger on this side that wasn't even there before.
Spider sense, venom sense,
something like that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So that's happening. You clock that thing and just drop it down. White Tree, you're sort of like in the middle of the clearing, like doing your dance and getting your stuff all together. And Maxon, I think you are probably closest to Rawl. So either I think White Tree, you're probably like more like quick to react than Maxon probably is, but you're also further away. So is there anything that you wanted to do right away?
I mean, I can talk to beasts, to natural beasts. So I think White Tree like tries to calm them down, like speaks to them in their language and saying, not calm them down, maybe to what's the word, like
berate.
Yeah, berate is a good word. Like similar to what Crinwin would say to each other, get off my lawn,
Okay, cool. So basically, you're just like kind of shouting little clicks and growls at them to get them to back the fuck off.
Exactly. Get off.
Okay. Go ahead and roll a parlay for me then.
That is an 8.
An 8. Okay. Yeah. So they are kind of like you're kind of barking at them and growling, hissing at them, and you sort of can tell from the growls and hisses that they're making still in the grass. There's probably like a good half dozen of them still out there. And there's also the one that's like, still clamoring on Amir's shield. And the ones that are out there, it dawns on you like, okay, yeah, you need to put the fear into these things and really do something. Make them realize that you are not, or that you are all a force that needs to be reckoned with. So something bloody and brutal seems like the best option there.
Yeah, White Tree will definitely run over to Amir.
Okay. Maxon, well, she's sort of like barking and then sort of like turns and runs towards Amir. You're down towards Raoul and maybe the other hill folk, right? Probably like chatting with them and giving them direction. And you sense like at least 2 of these things just in the brush just past you, or just outside of your range. Like, or what you can see, you just like hear the little noise. And Raoul is sort of sitting there like limping because he's got this nasty bloody wound in his calf. What do you do?
Did we start a campfire?
I don't know. Did you?
I mean, if we're staying here, this is where we're setting up. I imagine we're cooking.
Yeah, though I'm not. Well, you tell me. So you're in the midsummer in a tall grass prairie.
I suppose it comes
beating down on you. You might very well have actually intentionally burnt out some of this area.
Yeah, that's. I would feel like the hill folks, if they make clearings, they probably do like a controlled interior moving fire to clear a space.
Okay,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think then there's probably just like this like pile of flames in the middle, right? Like of embers and everything that you just sort of been like brushing and pushing everything towards.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a flame there.
Then I'm going to run over and just grab some piece out of it, and I have no weapons at this point. I lost my cool dagger, and I don't think we resupplied. So I'm really just sort of, I'll come back over there, and since I'm afraid they might come after the blood, smelling Raul's blood, I'll move over and kind of be in defense, waving this flaming brand, Cool. Shoo! Yay! Go! Shoo!
That sounds great. Roll a defend for me, and let me know what you get.
Alrighty. Let's see. Defend is off of. Defend is off of con, and I just took that up with my level up, and I'm glad I did. That will give me a 10. I rolled an 8.
Oh, nice. Okay. So yeah, you have cool. So you got that hold. You kind of like get there in front of him, and then we'll hold there for a second.
Cool.
Amir, you got a you have a drake on your shield, like snatching and snarling and scratching at you. You vaguely sense through White Tree kind of running your direction. What do you do?
So how big is this thing? It's like 40 pounds?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, so it's like a good sized sack of potatoes. And it's on my shield.
It is. It's also scrabbling, and it's a good sized sack of potatoes with teeth and claws and all sorts of bitterness.
It's definitely like menacing in that way, and like it could hurt me, but I like kind of like, I think I'm kind of like smiling at this thing. Like I kind of like it. Like I think I'm gonna try and roll over on it and like pin it down and like throw my cloak over it and like try and capture it.
All right. So are you like trying to wrestle it into submission? Are you trying to be clever about it? Like how you think you're doing this with strength or with int?
Yeah, I don't think it's a super clever thing. I think it's just like probably just trying to overpower it. So
Okay, cool. All right, roll it.
So I got a 7.
Okay. So I think what happens is not surprisingly, you manage to like wrestle it down, right, and kind of get at it. But the thing is just like, and you take probably, you know, like it scores a dozen little cuts and scrapes on you.
Oh yeah, that's probably hurts pretty good.
Yeah. So so take a d6 of damage.
Okay.
And I do have a question for you, just to be realistic about this. Like, are you wearing your bronze cuirass out in the middle of the hot summer while doing? Okay.
No, none of our guys were wearing armor. We just had our shields and our swords.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So you're taking that damage. Then is it? And you manage to like pin it down, and it's still scratching. And like you think you get one leg down or like pinned, and then another leg starts like scratching, and you think, "Fuck! This thing's all teeth and claw." Yeah, but you got it pinned down.
Just kind of press my shield down on it, and then pull my cloak over top of it.
Great, that's awesome. So White Tree, you show up, like you get to where he is as like he's just getting it wrapped up, right, and subdued. And then there's that one. It's still kind of like squirming under there, right? You can kind of see it rattling around under the shield. And then there's an unconscious one right next to Sarade.
And I think I give you like a guilty look.
I was about to say you have this pet. But I have bad news. But if there's an unconscious one, I will do the bloody ritual with the unconscious one rather than with Amir's future pet.
All right, so you just like what are you doing with it?
Yeah, I take out my bronze dagger, cut it open, and I hold in my hand outstretched its heart in one hand and its lungs in the other hand, and I repeat the territorial voice.
Yeah. All right, so you're there, like dripping in blood and gore, like shouting chirps and hisses out into the grass. And Maxon, I don't think we're going to get into actually like spending the hold, right? But I think like your hold is definitely enough where like the things we're sniffing in like at the blood, and you manage to like hold them back. Scat. And when White Tree does her thing, I think they like skitter away, like they like look back. And skitter and they're off into the grass. And yeah, Maxon, you see White Tree like hands covered in blood, right? Probably half naked for getting ready for this ritual. Maybe even still wearing the horse mask. And just like what's going through your brain right here?
I look at her and I go, and I skitter back. No, I'm like, oh my goodness. But I respect it the same as they did, and I see it worked. But yeah, it's one of those, oh my.
Awesome. Okay, the game wraps up in about 15 minutes here, right? So I think we're going to just kind of like flip into epilogue kind of mode, right? Since we're not going to get much more significant stuff done. Amir, tell me what happened. Oh, sorry. Actually, White Tree, tell us briefly about the ritual and how you end up getting the bringing the horses in, and how you end up dealing with the Kefla Reg.
So I imagine that the hill folk point out, the place where we would find the horses. So the horses will be brought in through like normal means with making noises and ushering them into the corral. And then, but they are wild and untamable. And then White Tree enters the circle of these horses with all the white, glaring eyes. And she wears nothing except the horse mask. And from within the horses appears at some stage the horse wife, and there's like
And just to give you a detail, the horse wife, the Kefelreg, sort of manifests as like suddenly there's this extra horse in the herd, and it's just the most magnificent, like noble steed, not even steed, right? Like you'd never even consider riding this, but just like wind blowing in the mane, sort of horse.
And she bows and promises her to treat the horses always with respect, and to visit her to bring our gratitude once in a year.
Once a year, okay, cool. That's awesome. Amir, what happens with this rage drake that you captured?
So I think epilogue style, I do keep it and it I do treat it like a pet. I have to keep it staked in an open area so that it doesn't hurt anyone. And it's just a hateful little creature. It's not tameable at all. I feed it meat and things, and I use it in combat from time to time, and it's notoriously unreliable as to who it will attack. And I always have to capture it at the end of the battle. But in the winter, when it's really, really cold, because this thing is essentially a cold-blooded creature, it will come up and lay next to me for warmth.
Oh, that's delightful. I think this is the thing that finally gets the town to build you a new, your own house.
Just because they don't want to put up with this drake.
Oh. Awesome. Saraid, you end up paying Raoul back. He actually, it seems like you actually think you've kind of got a friend in him when this is all done. Though I don't know if maybe Saraid is beyond having friends at this point, but
maybe there's just a little glimmer there. I think there's still occasionally moments where Saraid feels things.
Sure.
Yeah, and is kind of sorry to see Rawl go, because Rawl is in a way a reminder of not a better time, but a different time.
What give us a scene or some sort of impression of how the summer ends up going for Saraid and how life is going for him. Maybe it's as it turns into autumn.
Yeah, I think so. Saraid, at this fun little image. So Saraid has found a home that was previously abandoned. Maybe Helad's family leaves the area; they can't take it anymore, being in the area. So he takes over Helad's old spot, and it's very near the edge, sort of at the very. And I think Saraid is kind of scared of being too near the crops. Because Saraid has noticed that wherever he lays down at night, the next day, any of the plants that are in the immediate vicinity start to die. And so there's just this early morning, Saraid is walking out of the house and goes over and sees across the wall, which is further than it's ever happened before, that a little some of those plants are starting to do that twisted thing that was on the outside of the maw. And Saraid quickly cuts those down and throws them over the cliff.
Nice. All right, and Maxon. You know, paint a little scene for where we see you going forward, or
I think we see as winners come in, and as occurs, the older folks tend to drift off when cold comes around, and so there's this house where Maxon's gone to tend to someone who's probably going to pass.
I think it's Ifan's mom.
But Maxon's learned something from Ifan. And so as she's nearing her end, he leans down. You don't have to stop serving Stonetop yet. Travel with me a while longer.
Freaking Welsh. I'll edit this out later.